Hello, good morning, and welcome to the STEAM Cafe. I am your host, Jillian Rhodes. I am a dancer choreographer by profession on most other days, but on Mondays, at this very time and at this very address in cyberspace, you can find me as your server in the STEAM Cafe, bringing you all kinds of science-infused art, all the wonderful ways that science and art infuse and generally come together to create beautiful and wonderful things. Today on the menu, besides a very distracted host, I cannot say that it is a morning. I can say that it is a Monday. But besides a very distracted host, what is on the menu is I am bringing you a review of the latest of the spring issue from the SciArt Initiative's quarterly magazine. So this is something that I'm thinking about including as kind of my rotation of possibilities, menu items. Often, as you guys know, I have guests, wonderful guests, and next week I will have a guest for you. I'm not going to say more about it because I don't remember, but I know that I have a guest. Sometimes I perform myself if I have an astronomy themed project, and sometimes I go down the rabbit hole on research, and in this kind of new menu item, I will be reviewing SciArt work, collaborations, magazines, events. So I've been going through the events, lectures, and gallery from the Other Skies Festival, which was which SciArt Initiative was a partner on, I think, which is how I know about it. I didn't catch the event live, but I've been sent all of the links, so I'll go through that. And then later on in May, I'll be attending, looking at the various. Sorry, somebody's at my door. This happened. This is what happens live. You'll have to just give me like 30 seconds. I'll be right back. This is recorded live. Sorry. Welcome to Monday. So I will be later in May. See, I even remember what I was talking about. Isn't that amazing? So later on in May, there is this Mission to Psych event, which is all our SciArt. So I will be attending that and bringing you the reviews and thoughts from it. So it's so today is kind of the initial test for this new segment. If you have any comments, any questions, any ideas or suggestions from today's episode, please feel free to let me know in Discord or any of my other links. I would love to hear your thoughts and suggestions so that I can improve for the next time. So without further ado, let me bring you into the digital magazine of SciArt Initiative. So I was very excited when I first saw what this issue was about, because of course it's about movement, and I thought movement, wonderful. Of course, I'm a dancer choreographer, so I thought this is going to be great. Of course, there's like one article which actually has to do with dance, but there you go. I was excited for a little while. This issue has four main sections: embodied, painted, mapped, and plotted. Painted and plotted are behind a paywall, so I'm not going to be showing you them on the screen. I will talk a little bit about what's in them, but I will not be bringing it up on screen. Obviously they have some really interesting work, but SciArt Initiative offers a lifetime subscription, which is interesting. So we're going to start with Embody. Now, before I get into some of the reviews, I mean, obviously art is very subjective. So I have a certain way of looking at art. I have a certain way of responding to it, which is not going to be the same as everybody. I put my headphones in backwards. which is not going to be the same as everybody, obviously. So there are certain things that I look for in art pieces, which are different, I'm sure, than everybody. So these reviews are totally subjective. Disclaimer passed. Let's open up Embody. So obviously I was the most excited for this one because I thought this is perhaps the most likely to have dance. It is unfortunately not about dance. There's only one. I think there were there's a few different articles in this particular, in this section. The first one, which was primarily about bringing visual art, drawing, music, and this concept of the stinging cells, as you can see the title here. An interactive interpretation of parasite stinging cells, visual arts and music. This was not something, it's not a topic that I'm particularly interested in. And it's basically the performance, this video of the performance, I found it to be something that you could really only appreciate with in-depth knowledge of the topic, and an in-depth knowledge of how all of these elements were connecting, right? So it wasn't something that you could just kind of come in and understand on that sort of immediate visceral level. It was very, so that was what I thought about that. But the next one, I'm just gonna pop into the chat to make sure I'm not. Oh, wait a minute. Now I've just popped into the chat and I realized that it is time for a happy dance because Ambius has subscribed and it has been 15 months. So thank you so much, Ambius. That's amazing. So while other hosts at CosmoQuest will give treats to dogs, in exchange for bits and subs, I bring you happy dances. Looking at this, it has something to do with weeds and magnets and light. And that's all I remember about the article. But I mean, these images are pretty darn awesome. I think they have something to do with electric plates and then they light up and make these really fascinating pictures of weeds or their roots or something like this, which this is something that, like, on an aesthetic level, you can just right away, wow, this is kind of interesting. The last thing actually does have to do with dance, which is exciting. Basically, it's a software which creates these geometric figures which the dancers are interacting with. So it's basically a way of having something to dance with on Zoom. So instead of, you know, these laggy Zooms and it's hard to kind of actually have this sense of immediate back and forth. So this program was created for basically dancers to have something to bounce ideas off, to sort of play around with that idea of a partner. I think it's not so much a finished artwork. It's just a tool, essentially. It's bringing science as a tool to kind of help, you know, artists, especially in this time. So I think that was pretty cool. I thought that was pretty interesting. I don't know if I would use such a thing, but I don't know. I think it'd be something that would be really interesting to experiment with for sure. The very last, this one was also about dance. I forgot about this one. This one was also about dance. It's a kind of art film with these revolving figures kind of transposed over the image of this dancer sort of spinning. I didn't have too much to say about this particular piece. It was not something that spoke to me particularly on any level, but interesting, but not my jam. So moving on to Mapped, which is the second of the free sections. I think the first article was probably my favorite. And I definitely want to reach out to this person and get them to come as a guest on the stream, because fascinating work. So the sort of the science behind it is very confusing and not something that I think I have understood yet, even though I've read it a few times. But it has to do with neurological memory, basically the hippocampus, the way that it remembers, and spatial memory. And it has to do, basically, I think it has to do with, it's made with rats exploring their environment, and then so basically I don't really understand how it works, but I do know that it's interesting, and I would love to have this person on the show to talk about what it is and what is actually going on, so I can, clarify it a little bit and bring these pictures into focus. So these are kind of there's a couple of videos that show, obviously, apparently there's a thing going around exploring their, the environment. And as it touches on these different places, these images appear. So I assume that this has to do with the science behind it. I unfortunately did not fully understand. This particular piece that is being built is a memory of Boston. So anybody from Boston, I don't know if you'd recognize it in this video or not. At the end, it looks, let's see if we can skip to the end. See what it looks like at the end. Yeah. So this is what it looks like at the end. I don't know if anybody from Boston can say if it looks like this or not. Pamela is saying she recognizes nothing. So, but there you go. Overall, like as an image, it's not particularly like, like basically, if knowing what's behind it is not particularly useful, but seeing the image itself, like this is the image that he's created for St. Louis. And I think it's just, I don't know, it's just interesting. Like there's so many, just the different layers and the different images that are coming out in different places. I would love to talk to this person about it. The next thing was a quarantine project, which I hate to, how shall I say it? It's the sort of project that you make in quarantine to keep yourself from going insane. But I didn't necessarily connect with it, with the final outcome. Likewise, this next animation and video about the blood-brain barrier was not particularly something that was of interest to me. I think so this was this article, which has to do with bird migration, actually. It has to do with animal, not necessarily birds, animal movement trajectories. Or maybe this is particularly birds. Obviously, I've read this very carefully. I really don't know what the article technically was about. I know it's about migratory patterns, but look at this image. It's so cool. Like, if it is like, it looks like a bird person, which is like running with their wings out. It's just like it's very evocative as an image. You know, like it has a perfectly little pointed foot at the back, and like, you know, it's running ahead and the wings are kind of up in the back. It's just fascinating. So whatever this is actually about, it's a beautiful image. This was kind of interesting. This one was a visualization, basically, of a single. Well, it's basically the movement of photons from the heart of the sun until they pass through a solar panel, basically, and, you know, end up charging a phone. So it's a bit wild to watch, for sure. I don't know. You know, I know that the artist worked really hard to get the physics correct. You know, I found it more of an informational type of video. It was almost like it would be used in a class or a lecture. Nothing wrong with that. I just thought that it would be an interesting sort of fun way, basically, to explain, oh, this is how this works. This is what happens. You know, with the disco music or the electronic music behind it, that was what made it a little wild. It was an interesting video. So that brings us to the end of the free sections. So I am going to stop the share just because it's not particularly, I don't think it's right to show the work behind the paywall, but I will talk a little bit about it. The two sections were called Painted and Plotted. And the first, I think the first article exhibition of the painted section was perhaps my favorite of the whole issue. They're paintings done by an artist named Jonathan Feldscha, I think is how you would say the name. And they're basically paintings which investigate the movement of subatomic particles inside an accelerator. So it's hard to sort of, I'm sure that all of them have very specific elements of them, which relate to different aspects of what happens in a particle collider. But as paintings, as pieces of art, they're also just gorgeous. So this is definitely, he's another person that I would love to bring on the show and talk more specifically about what he's done. And so that was very interesting. There's also a painting which is like a very large scale, very, very detailed, almost mosaic sort. It's basically what is it? Let me see if I can. So basically it's called Liminal Meanderings, Goldilocks and the Butterfly. It explores the process of physical and spiritual change and growth through movement in a betwixt and between space and time, where the paths of moving marks intersect in a landscape made of cellular and subcellular structures. So it's taking in these, there's so many, there's a lot of aspects going on in this. There's seasons, there's wanderings, there's the Goldilocks zones, there's the butterfly effect, there's, cellular, subcellular, there's a lot going on in this piece. And it's hard to see all the details on a computer screen. I can't say that I can, I really know what's going on in it, but it's, you can tell that there's just an incredible level of detail. And the third artist in this section was Micah Futz, who makes these really, really funky images of microbes, actually, which are almost cartoonish, but almost, you know, there's these ink kind of illustrations, and they come across as characters, really, more than paintings. So it's quite, which I think is quite fascinating, and they're very cute as well. So I like this one. And then the final one is also dealing with structures of cells and cell structures, particularly epithelial cells in human lungs. And there's just a series of paintings which is working on this structure with different colors and you know, out perspectives. So overall, I thought that this section was just was really, really interesting. Because each of them had really different characters. Each of them were each of these different characters. Sorry, I just got distracted because of the chat. Sorry, I just opened it up. Astrowise was asking, did you say you weren't able to show the videos? Interested to see what the photons video, you're talking about the one that comes, basically the ones from the heart of the sun. I'm sure I can show a few seconds of it at least. So yeah, I'll do that. I'll come back and do that. And Astrowise is also saying it must be so hard for performing artists at the moment with theaters, et cetera, closed. Astrowise, you have no idea. You have no idea. I just, you know, there's a part of my soul that is missing when I'm not performing, and just like not having the, like, not that it's just like, it's, you know, theaters are closed. It's like, you don't even know when they're going to open, what's going to happen, how is it going to work? Like, there's just an incredible amount of anxiety which is associated with it. And just also, like, you know, I don't know, people talk about essential services, essential workers, and that's all very well and good. It's just when it comes to me personally, like, there's nothing non-essential about performance. So anyway, that's my rant. Moving on to Plotted, which is the fourth and final section of the Movement magazine by SciArt Initiative, which is their 44th volume, apparently, which is pretty amazing. So this, the first pieces that are featured in this section are by Megan Kennedy, and they're basically what she calls wind drawings. I really don't know the actual process that is being used here, and how they're created. Would definitely love to have her on the show to talk about it, because they're very beautiful images. They're very stark, mostly monochrome, and it does look like a pen has just been almost left to drift across the paper, you know, with the wind, and then just to see basically just whatever happens. So that's quite interesting. There's somebody has created, his name is Ted Kinsman. He's created a modern geometric drawing chuck. So it's a little doohickey. It's a device that has all these different layers and, like, rotates in different ways, and you basically attach a pen at the top. It is placed on top of a paper, which is on top of the plate of this rotating extravaganza, and then it does its thing, and you have these sort of fascinating patterns that are, you know, repeated with multiple lines, you know, ever so slight variations every time the line goes through. So, you know, interesting, definitely quite ingenious. That quite ingenious that somebody has thought that up. And that was it. So there was only 2 featured in Plotted, which is interesting. I think after all, my favorite section was probably Painted. But there's a lot of interesting. I mean, I think, obviously I'm coming to these pieces mostly as an artist, so I'm looking for their artistic value, the aesthetics of it. How does it speak to me immediately? Do I have to know what it's about? So these are the kind of questions that I'm thinking about as I'm, looking at and working with these basically as reading this magazine, absorbing this art. Words are hard. Words are hard. Yes, please do ask any questions if you have them. And in the meantime, let me go back. I can also share computer sound, and let me go back and see if we can watch a bit of that, of the Proton video. Let me see if I remember where it was. Here it is. So basically, harvesting light is an extraordinary journey that follows the movement of photons from their origins in the heart of the sun, accompanying their passage through nearly 150 million kilometers of intervening inner solar system space, through the Earth's atmosphere, and onto the new generation quantum solar cell. So I'll show you what I mean by wild. I think this is the one. So that's the that's the video. It's like I said, it looks like it would be something that would be really good to explain a concept, and the added electronic music just make it more fun. So it's kind of catchy and fun to watch too. You can kind of bop your head to it. So that is the story of today. This is, like I said, this is a new segment that I'm thinking of doing more to basically review sci art events, publications, etc. So let me know if you have thoughts, comments, suggestions. If you know of an event that you think would be interesting to cover on this segment, et cetera, do let me know. I always love to hear your thoughts. And hopefully some of these artists that I discovered by going through this magazine, I will be able to invite and have as guests later on in the show. So hopefully that will work out. I'll be sending emails to people eventually in the coming weeks. In the meantime, I do have a guest lined up for you next week. There is no Minecraft Monday today. Tomorrow, as usual, there will be the Daily Space and the rest of the normal CosmoQuest programming, bringing you all of your science, news, podcasts, etc. And every Monday, I am here in the Steam Cafe, bringing you some incredible science-infused art. So without further ado, thank you for joining me on this Monday in a year of Mondays, and I will see you next week. Bye-bye.